Hello and welcome to Helluva Podcast. I'm Alex,
I'm Audie, the O is silent.
and this is a unofficial podcast all about Helluva Boss.
Yeah.
Like half of what we talk about is not going to be canon. It's just going to be us being crazy.
Yeah, some intense analysis, some theories, some headcanons.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And it will be based on the content of the show.
Yes. When we talk about stuff that's not as like based on the show and stuff that we just think of that's funny, that's not actually true, we'll say that. For the most part, all of our theories are very based in evidence from the show.
Yeah, so even if you don't personally agree with them, we did construct these based on evidence and
Yes.
things that we believe could mean something, even if they actually don't. And we're just crazy.
Yes, we've watched the show a really unhealthy amount of times.
A lot of times, and most recently we rewatched the entire show and took extensive notes on every single episode.
Specifically 30 pages of notes?
Over 30 pages
Over
of
30
notes.
pages of notes.
Granted, 1/3 of those were for one specific episode, but we'll get to that when we get to
Yes.
it.
Today's episode is going to be about the pilot and the first episode, Murder Family.
Yeah, we're combining the two because not only I think we have not too much to say about each of them, compared to the episodes further down the line, but also I feel like they do kind of have a lot of things in common that we want to talk about. Like, they both introduce a lot of similar things, so they're good to combine.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Also, I completely forgot what I was going to say.
That's okay. There's a little disclaimer about the pilot. Can you pull up ye old notes on ye old laptop?
Yes.
Very professional setup here. Is that what you were gonna say?
No, I remember what I was going to say.
Go ahead.
Another thing is, if you haven't seen the show, we're going to give a little brief description of it.
Oh, yeah.
But if you haven't seen it, and you're like, oh, well, I'm fine with just the first episode being spoiled, we are going to get into more detail of stuff that is covered later on because it wraps into theories that are kind of touched upon in the first episode and the pilot.
Yeah.
So this is basically our big spoiler warning.
Mm-hmm.
But do you want to explain what the show's about a little bit?
Yeah, so Helluva Boss it's a spin-off of Has Been Hotel, which, to be clear, we won't really be getting into, unless, there's things about the world building that are relevant from Has Been Hotel, but we're not analyzing Has Been Hotel. I feel like that's important to clarify also. But yeah, it's a spin-off of Has Been Hotel. It takes place in Hell, and Helluva Boss follows Blitz, the O is silent, who is the leader of a company called IMP, the Immediate Murder Professionals, and basically they go to Earth, the mortal world, and they kill people they're hitmen, basically.
Yeah.
And Blitz is the leader of that company, and then there's also Moxie, who's the weapons specialist? Is that his title?
Yeah, I think so.
And Millie's, I don't know what Millie's title is.
Millie's the baddest bitch.
The baddest bitch, yeah. And then Luna, their hellhound receptionist. And,
yes.
Yeah. And they're able to get to the mortal world because Stolas, one of the princes of Hell, has a fancy little book that he lends out to them because #transactional sex.
Yeah, true.
Explicit themes, by the way.
Yes, explicit themes. What are some things that, if people haven't seen it, you're like, you would like this because blank?
Yeah, you would like Helluva Boss if you I guess it's not, I don't know if the thing with Has Been Hotel, from what I understand, is that it's we're helping people kind of thing, and they actually have goals that benefit the greater good, at least the main character, whereas this is more we are getting money and we're killing people, and it's more, I think, more, I don't know how to explain it, but you get what I'm trying to say?
I think it's less trying to help for the greater good and more trying to help each other survive and have happy, successful lives.
Yes.
Especially, I feel like there's a lot of the characters are traumatized. So if you like really deep storytelling, things that you can watch over and over again and recognize something new that greatly impacts your idea of the plots. Yeah. This is a show like that.
There's a lot in canon, but there's so much out of canon that you can pick up on. I think if you I think BoJack Horseman, it's a very different show, but I think if you like that, you'd like this. If you like Six of Crows, you'd like this. I'm just spreading my agenda at this point, but I'm giving some comp titles, if you will.
Okay, yeah. Honestly, I don't have any recommendations like this, so because I'm not usually into this kind of genre, so that if that's any thing for people, is that I'm not usually into like the adult cartoon or anything like that, but this one I'm unhealthily obsessed with.
Yeah.
So even if you think that's like not really my thing, I would give it a watch. Give it at least till like the 3rd episode.
Yeah. And if you don't like the 4th episode, keep watching because I don't really like that one either.
Give it till Truth Seekers, honestly.
Yeah. Also, Six of Crows is an insane comparison to make, but just trust me.
Yeah. Oh no, I've never read it, but from what you say, I can see it.
Yeah. 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 So that's the intro to the show. If you have any intention of watching it, you should stop listening to this now.
Yeah, and go watch it. We'll be back here when you're done.
We'll be here.
It's only 4 hours total.
Yeah.
Not even.
It's
That's
like,
with a pee break.
Yeah, with a pee break. I mean, if you're crazy like us, you can make it last like 12 hours by taking extensive notes on it, but
you don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that because we're doing it for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just go watch it and then come back and listen. Even if you just go watch the, like... Oh, actually, no, because we'll spoil this stuff. I was just going to say, even if you just go watch the first episode, no.
Just go watch the whole thing and then come back.
Yeah. We'll be here when you're back.
We'll be here.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Another thing we wanted to know was the reclaiming hell for the gays thing.
Yeah.
Before we get into anything else. That's kind of like the purpose of this show, right? Or one of the purposes.
Mm-hmm. I've seen Vivzie Pop herself, the creator of this show and Has Been Hotel, mention that for both series, because both take place in hell. It's sort of like, this is for all the gay people who were told that they'd get sent to hell. Now there's gays in hell, but not in, not in a bad way.
Not in a bad way.
Yeah.
That's another thing. If you really like queer rep, this, as crazy as it is, has a ton of queer rep in it. Yeah. Canon and fanon.
Yeah.
But mostly canon. I think.
Canon.
Yeah. I think it's just us thinking that Moxie's trans. That's fanon.
Yeah. And I think, to be fair, a lot of that, the representation is made canon, like, outside of the show. But that's not to say that it won't be canon in the show later, because, like, I think Moxie was made canon bisexual outside of the show, and then it was put into the show. So, you know.
But at this point, I think almost all, if, like, other than the trans Moxie thing, I think it's all canon now, right?
I think so.
Like, it's not, a lot of it isn't, like Moxie saying, I'm bi. Like,
yes.
First of all, Dad, I'm bisexual.
First of all, Dad, I'm bisexual.
A lot of it isn't like that, but, like, we know, for example... Blitz is pan-canonically outside of the show, but we know that he's at least bi.
In the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because we see him with male and female partners.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we see him make comments. I guess the Fizz thing isn't entirely canon, but I feel like it's heavily implied.
I think so, too. We'll get to all that.
Yes.
But Stolas at least is canon, Vraska is canon.
Yes, Millie and Moxie are both canon because of that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Point being, gay people are real. And trans people.
And trans people. Yeah, there is one. One.
Trans person is real.
Vivzie Pop.
Vivzie Pop
Make multiple.
Bring Sally Mae back.
Yes, she needs more than like 2 seconds of screen time, please.
And make transgender Moxie canon. Don't be a coward. If I was...
Do it, please.
If I was in, like, an elevator with Vivzie Pop for, like, 10 minutes, I could convince her that Moxie being trans is canon. That's what I think.
I think that she just needs to listen to this podcast and she'll agree.
Hi, Vivzie Pop.
Hi, Vivzie Pop.
Anyway, so let's get into the episodes we're actually talking about today.
All right, the pilot. We have some disclaimers first.
Yes.
So the pilot was released how much before the rest of the show?
I think at least a year before the first actual episode came out.
So it was kind of like a tester. And so everything in that we are kind of taking with a grain of salt. Not only because it was released so much in advance, but also because it just has a completely different vibe.
Yeah, and there were definitely some changes, both, like, I mean, there were some voice actor changes.
Hashtag not my Stolas.
Hashtag not my Stolas. Millie was okay. I mean, I definitely prefer Millie's voice actor now, but she was okay, but hashtag not my Stolas. In terms of voice acting and the character.
Yeah. Who is that guy?
Yeah, so there are just some very clear, like, differences in the direction they wanted to take.
Yes.
And I think they've clarified that outside of the show as well.
Yes.
So yeah, we're taking things with a grain of salt. And yeah.
I think that's all of our disclaimers there.
Yeah. Also, just considering that since there are different vibes, if you watch the pilot and you're like, I'm not really a fan, I'd say definitely give it more of a chance than that.
Yeah. And I think honestly, like Murder Family definitely isn't one of my top episodes, but I feel like if you watch that and you like it, you're probably gonna like the rest of the show.
Yeah.
And if you watch it and you hate it, like with passion, then you probably won't like it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because it is similar in vibe to the rest of the show, but it's just not a strong episode.
Yeah, I think it is a strong start to the show. Like,
Yes.
it does introduce the show as a whole really well.
Oh yeah, it's a really strong start, but it's not even in my top 3, I would say.
No, oh yeah, definitely not.
But yeah. The first little thing that we noticed was on the sign outside of Im City.
Yeah.
It says that Im City was founded in 1981, which I don't know if we'll need, but I think it was just an important thing to know.
Especially later on, we're gonna be trying really hard to figure out like the timeline of events of this show and stuff. And I guess the founding of Im City might not be that important, but it might be. I mean, they included it for a reason.
Yeah, and also that's so recent when you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we're talking about the pilot now, so we're taking things with a grain of salt, especially little details, I feel like, but it's worth noting.
But that's something also worth looking out for, like, so that now we know that it's on that sign, so next time we see that sign, we can look out for it.
Yeah. Should we mention our critiques of the pilot real quick?
Yeah.
Because, and this first one is something that is throughout the show that we're really not fond of.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like, fat jokes and fat phobia, mostly directed at Moxie.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense, because he's, like, the smallest one.
Yeah, and that's, like, supposed to be the joke, but they're still painting it in a very bad light. And
especially where they're having Moxie, like, continuously be like, it's not good at all, but I think the way, like, the episode that rubbed me the wrong way the most was it the most recent one?
I think so, yeah.
X's and O's.
Yes.
Where he's like, I lost a couple pounds today.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he's internalizing that. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So,
and then they're painting, like, weight loss as, like, the good thing and being fat as the bad thing.
Yeah. Which is awful.
Not a fan of it. I've seen some people defend it and be like, well, they're showing Luna doing it in a mean way, so they're not condoning it. But I don't think it needed to be included at all.
Yeah, it doesn't add anything to the story. Like, and it also kind of feels just, like, out of place, too.
Yeah.
So, Boozy Pop, if you're watching this, please stop.
Please. Yeah, so not a fan of that. And that does continue throughout the show, unfortunately.
But
including the most recent episode.
As far as continuous critiques throughout the whole show, though, I think that's our only one.
Yeah, other than maybe some characters not having as much time as others.
Yes.
Millie.
Yes. Millie.
Millie. Yeah.
Millie no last name.
Millie no last name.
But also in the pilot, they did use the R slur. Yeah. Which I feel like was definitely like a pilot this is out of character kind of thing. Yeah. But also hated it.
No, yeah, I hate it. That was like, because I very nearly didn't watch this series, or I almost, like, watched the first episode, and then I wasn't gonna watch anymore, and I remember, like, hearing them use the R slur, and I was like, oh, if this is the type of humor that's gonna be in this, I don't think I really want to watch it.
I remember I got a little jump scared.
Yeah.
Because I was like, because Blitz also just doesn't strike me as the type of person to use that either, so I was like, whoa.
Yeah. And we're not condoning it.
No, we're
by
not.
Any means.
In the notes it says this, and then in parentheses, and then the next parentheses it says not condoning its use with like 5 exclamation points.
Yeah, we want to make it very clear. Not condoning it. But as a little joke between us, as 2 autistic people, we're allowed to make this joke. If Blitz is autistic, then he can reclaim that slur all he wants.
That's true. Also, Moxie's autistic.
Also,
he
Moxie's
uses it
autistic.
at Moxie.
Yeah.
So.
But no, we're not condoning.
We're not condoning it, but it is a little funny.
It is funny in that way, but no, did not like that either.
All right. So the next bullet point we have is just Blitz, and then a ton of bullet points under it.
Yeah. So let's talk about Blitz.
Yes. It's in the pilot, I believe, that Blitz says that. So Moxie is being mad at him, and he says, "Are you trying to crush my dreams? Just like my dad."
My theater dreams, just like my dad.
Well, I don't think he says theater dreams. I think Moxie's talking about... Oh, maybe he does.
I think he does say theater dreams.
You're probably right.
Okay.
But yeah, this could be a joke, but also, now that we know about the circus... Yeah. I think it's something.
My dad crushing my dreams of theater could be referencing his dreams of being in the circus.
Yes.
And we know
especially because we know the circus in this universe is like canonically showbiz.
Yes. According to Crimson.
According to Crimson, but I mean, I feel like Blitz, like, reacted like not big to it. So
Yeah.
and it makes sense, like in the sense, like circuses are a big thing in the world, but they're not that big, and the dynamic that they had was kind of like theatery and like television-y in the sense of like they had tents and they all like traveled together and it was these big huge setups and stuff like that. That's very like showbizy to me.
Yeah, I think it could be a throwaway line, but it also could
be something.
Could be something. Even if it wasn't intended to be something, I think it is something.
Yeah.
You know, it makes sense in that way.
And at the least, it's a little bit of character development, a little bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth noting.
Yeah. And then sort of related to Blitz's circus background, in the posters that we see throughout the like IMP headquarters.
Yeah.
A lot of them are from his days in the circus, and his name is written as Blitz O with the O.
Yeah, and some of them it's emphasized.
Yeah, like there's little like markings around it to emphasize the O. It's very, and then that compared with the fact that like on his office door the O is scratched out.
Yeah, there's quite a few times where it's scratched out. It's on his bag as well.
Yeah,
I don't think it's in this episode.
No, that's Truth Seekers, but yeah.
You knowing that off the top of your head. But yeah, it's scratched out in some places, but he keeps up those posters and doesn't do anything to them, and that's really interesting to me.
And I think knowing what we know about how he initially liked being in the circus and like wanted it to be his future career.
Yeah.
I think it says something a lot that name used to be important to him.
Yeah.
And now it's like the O is silent.
Which there's so much with the name, and we're not going to get too much into it this episode. Yeah. But oh my goodness.
I think we're going to get into timelines in a little bit because we have some potential timelines mapped out for Blitz like leaving the circus and starting IMP. But I think, can you scroll up in the notes?
Yeah, sorry.
It raises the question of like, when and why did he change his name? Like, how recently was that? Because it seems like a recent change.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's recent. Another thing we have, like a possible theory, is that Blitz could have been famous. Mm-hmm. Which we think, he was at least mildly famous, because you think he was with Fizzarelli.
Yes.
Fizzarelli is very famous.
Yes.
And so he had to have gotten scouted somehow. Mm-hmm. So he was at least famous as a kid, but the question is if he stayed famous into his adulthood or, like, late teenage years. Mm-hmm. And that's why he introduces himself as Blitz, the O is silent, so people know who he is.
Mm-hmm. People would know him as Blitzo.
Yeah.
That's why, like, some people were reacting, there's like, where's the O? But, like, other people would know him as Blitzo. Be like,
and so they're like, oh, okay, I know who you
Blitz
are.
now. Yeah.
But it's Blitz now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we will talk about that more in Spring Broken. What number episode is that?
That is episode 3.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So, in a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I thought that was just worth noting, that little theory.
Yeah. Another thing that makes this absolutely crazy is the branding, which we know from season 2, episode 1, The Circus, to be a marking that everyone in Blitz's circus had on their heads.
Yes, including Fizzarelli, who no longer has the same one.
Yes, and including his sister.
In which it's crossed out.
It's like, it used to be like the same black branding. We see that in Ozzy's, actually, in the old picture of them as kids. Mm-hmm. She had the same marking, but then in every other poster we've seen of her when she's older, it's like white and like crossed out.
Yeah, I think the 2 instances we see of that is the amazing Imp Twins poster when they're still performing.
Yeah.
We kind of see it a little bit. Like, I never made it out because it's not actually, you can't see the X. Yeah. You can just see the white. Mm-hmm. But in the 2022 or the 2023 trailer, I don't remember which one. Mm-hmm. That might be in our notes somewhere. But it's crossed out with a white X.
Yeah.
And so then when we looked back, I was like, oh, that's the white X. Which is really interesting to me because they're still performing. Yeah. But they're very, or at least she's very not associated with the original circus. Mm-hmm. Where Blitz then still had his marking and still wears his marking.
Does have his marking.
Even though, like, everyone else we've seen from the circus in modern time doesn't have their marking.
Yeah, and we have a lot of questions about, also the white marking on Blitz's face, like the white side of his face.
Because he didn't have that as a kid.
He didn't have, even when he was older.
Yeah, as like a teen.
In the Amazing Imp Twins poster, he doesn't have it.
That's true. And the picture with Fizzarelli, but I think he's a little younger there, actually.
Yeah. And my running theory, there are a few theories, but my running theory is that Blitz did try to get rid of his marking. And I think it's interesting that his sister's is white as a result of her trying to get rid of it. And now his, like, side of his face is white. And granted, a lot of imps have white markings.
Yes. But his is significant, and I don't think... Have we seen another imp with that significant... Because it's not only... Like, we've seen him essentially naked.
Yes.
It's, like, on his face, his arms, his back, everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. Which, some of them could be, like, the normal, like, birth markings that some people seem to have.
Moxie and Millie's are definitely freckles.
Yeah. But... I don't know, and knowing that canonically he didn't have it until he was older, and, like, seemingly much older, like, pretty recently, I would think.
Yeah.
I think my working theory is that he tried to get rid of his marking, and he somehow, like, scarred himself or did something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other theory in general that we had was that it's a scar, but which doesn't really make that much sense given the other white marks, so we don't really have much backing for that.
Right.
But...
Other than he would have gotten it around the time he started IMP.
Yes. And that is another thing which we're, again, not going to get that into this episode because we are able to talk about it in context of the other episodes more.
Yes.
But how did Blitz get started killing?
Yeah. And when you consider the quote from... What is it? Is it Harvest Moon Festival? Where, like, he's talking to Millie's parents, and he's like, well, when you're good at something, you should probably capitalize. So he was good at it.
Yeah.
And then he started the business. It wasn't the other way around.
Yeah. And why was he good at it? Because before he was all circus, it was his whole thing. So, like, what happened to make him, first of all, want to kill, second of all, kill, third of all, be good at it, meaning he does it often?
Yeah. It's not, like, we know with Moxie that, you know, he was raised in the Mafia. Yeah. That makes sense. Millie, we don't know a lot. We don't have any specific reasons for, but we know even as a kid she was, you know, more violent. She killed 9 people in the games that 1 year. And also seemed to grow up, like, I don't know, struggling financially, at least. Like... I'm not sure if there's anything there, but there could have been a lot of reasons for Millie that we haven't seen yet, but, like, they make sense.
And I think even just seeing the aggression and, like, the, like, that kind of personality as a kid is enough, even. Because, like, that makes sense why she would go and apply for a job there, but I think it's definitely, with Blitz, even crazier because he started a whole business himself. Based on this, and he seemed, like, I know that there's that scene where they're playing, and he, like, is like, blood and whatever, but, like, he, as a kid, seemed very, like, almost passive.
He had hope. There was hope in those eyes.
There was hope in those eyes, and, like, when he met with Stolas and stuff, he was, like, having fun, being a kid, and, like, he was a little harsh to him, but, like, comparatively how another kid would have been with Stolas, he was kind of nice.
Yeah. And, like, we can assume that a lot of him being harsh was, like, you know, probably his dad's ideology of, like, you know, these people think they're better than us because they have money and shit like that.
And also kids will talk in a similar way.
Yes.
That they get talked to, and given that Blitz's only interaction was, like, Fizz, which we'll get into, and his family, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, there just was this inherent power dynamic between him and Stolas, even as kids. Less so, I think. Like, they didn't fully understand it, I think.
So excited to get into Fizz and Blitz. I don't think we have that much this episode, but...
Yeah, Fizz and Blitz, I think we're gonna, have some controversy.
After we're done with all these episodes, I feel like we're just gonna have a Fizz and Blitz episode.
Yeah.
But
also, this is a little off topic, but I just want to note that as of the time we're recording this, Season 2, Episode 3, X's and O's, that's the most recent episode.
Yes.
So, like, if we say anything that's like, well, actually, it's Season 2, Episode 5, and it's not out yet for us.
Yes. And when new content drops, if our theories get disproved, we will either touch upon it, or you can just assume that we've disregarded it and we're formulating another theory.
Yes.
Because if it canonically gets disproved, then we're not gonna still have that theory, obviously.
Yes.
Let's see, do we have... we have the phone. So all the items in the family, in Blitz's family home, or tent, I guess, in the circus, have the branding from the circus.
Yeah.
And his phone in his office has the branding being the same one that's on his head.
Yes.
And so I think it's funny because it's, in a way, because it's also like, did he steal it? Was it his phone? I feel like it wasn't his phone.
I feel like it wasn't his phone.
And then also, this might have a piece to do with why he still keeps the branding, if it's like reclamation or something like that.
Yeah.
But we'll talk more about that in the circus episode.
And I think the reclamation theory could be related to, like, it's not mutually exclusive from he initially tried to get rid of it, and then maybe he couldn't, and then it's like, alright, well, this is mine now.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I'm fucking accepting this.
Yeah, I'm not gonna frickin' scar the other half of my face.
Yeah, literally.
But yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Alright, moving on in our notes. I think we covered a lot of this without looking at it, so give us just one moment.
The timelines that we gotta get into. But above that, did we mention the M-Twins poster in the pilot is different than it is in the rest of the series? Because in the pilot, there's another person there who we later, I'm pretty sure it's just their mom.
Yes.
I think it's just a little discrepancy between the pilot and the rest of the series.
Yes.
I don't think it really means anything, but it's worth noting.
Yeah, in the pilot it says the Amazing Imp siblings.
Yes.
And it's the three of them. But I think, and I know that a lot of people don't think that picture is their mom, but I feel like it definitely is.
I feel like it definitely is.
And I know that there is a lot of fans that do believe it is also, like, a lot of theory I've watched.
Yeah.
Because it's just, like, the dynamic. Like, she's, like, holding them and things.
Yeah.
Like, it just...
Oh, and also in that family photo, I think they have the happy birth card.
Oh, yeah, so...
Yes.
Yeah.
So definitely a mom.
Yeah, I think definitely the mom. And maybe it was meant to be an older sibling or something, and then...
Yeah.
And then it got changed.
Got retconned.
But that is definitely something to know. But I think you're right. It's just a difference.
Yeah.
Something that got caught.
Also, in the pilot, it also has, like, I don't know if you and I have talked about this, but it says, like, has all their names next to them in that poster, and next to the mom it says Tilla. So that's the name we have for her.
Yeah.
Even if, it was originally supposed to be another sibling, I think we can still, for now.
Yeah, and we also don't know for sure that that's the mom's name now. Like,
yes.
saying if it got changed, it could not be the mom's name now as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that is I don't think we did talk about that.
Yeah,
so
I forgot to mention that.
Very good piece of little tidbit.
Alright.
No, so now we're getting into Blitz's sister, Barbie Wire.
Yeah.
Our main question about it is how long, one, was the show, The Amazing Imp Twins, from the current events, and two, how long has it been since Blitz has seen his sister?
Yeah. And we know from the trailer, definitely the 2023 one, possibly the 2022 trailer also, but we know that she will be in the show in present day at some point soon.
Yes.
So they will be reuniting. So I want to know how long it's been since they last saw each other.
Yeah.
And it definitely seems like it's going to be a very intense reunion.
Yeah, I think we do talk about the trailer later on in the notes.
Yes.
I was just looking for that.
Yeah. And we can see from the trailer that they seemingly ended on bad terms, which makes sense.
Yes.
So I think, also, not to mention the trailer over and over, but Barbie Wire says something like, haven't you ruined my life enough?
Yeah.
Which could mean that Blitz did something to actually ruin her life, or she just perceived it as him doing something to ruin her life.
Yes.
We don't really know.
Yeah, we don't know. And also, I think that Blitz's, like, whole attitude towards his sister is, like, not like he wronged her.
Yeah.
It's, like, longing and, like, just, like, missing her.
Yeah.
But that could... We just don't know enough about it.
Yeah, just, like, from the scene at the end of Ozzy's, when he looks at the picture and
Which, there's something very strong in that, in the sense of, he was very upset about the Stolas thing. Yes. And he looked at a picture with Stolas, and he was very upset about the Fizz thing, and he looked at a picture of Fizz.
Yeah,
when we
Veronica also.
Yeah, when we say Fizz, we're talking about Fizzarelli.
Yes, yeah.
It's not a canon nickname, so...
Yeah. Is it? It might be.
It might be, but I just want to just...
Yeah.
But anyway. And then he scrolls to the picture with his mom and sister and immediately tears.
Yeah.
So I think that there's some value in that.
Yeah, just from having that night at Ozzy's where he's upset about Stolas, upset about Fizz, upset about Veronica was also there. Mm-hmm. And then to connect that to the picture of him and his family. And yeah, like you said, it seems like his feelings towards his sister and his mom are more sadness than anger. Yeah. Whereas his sister seems to be more angry. So
yeah. And I know that people can feel sad when they've done something wrong,
Yes.
and so like people are probably like, well, that it justifies the whole theory that he did something wrong. But honestly, with Blitz, he is a big self-anger person. Like, that was a really bad way of wording that, but he has a lot of self-directed anger.
Yeah.
So I think if he had done something wrong, he'd be more like beating himself up about it rather than crying about it.
Yeah. Especially since, I mean, that's the only time we ever see him cry.
Yes, except for in the car, but
The single tear.
The single tear.
Yes. But versus, like, Moxie, we've seen get upset multiple times.
Have we seen him cry? I think it's just in X's and O's.
He just cries multiple times.
In X's and O's, which that's a lot to talk about. Also,
there's still a difference there.
There is a difference there. Yes, definitely. Because Moxie also, like, he gets angry in the like yelling and argumentative way, but he doesn't get like actually angry. He is more
like
passive and like
shrinks in on himself.
Yeah. Which
we'll get to that. So I think the Barbie wire thing is a good segue to the timelines because so we have 2.5 working timelines. So the first is that there's the family circus we know that the circus growing up that we know Blitz and his sister were a part of. We don't really know how much the mom was involved.
Yes, because we don't see her in all the shots of the people working in the circus.
Yes. And our in all versions of this timeline, we imagine that Fizz leaves. That's the big thing that happens. Probably because, he was definitely famous as a kid.
Yes.
I'm not sure when he would have left.
Yeah, that's a really big question.
He could have left soon after the flashback we saw, or he could have left when he was much older.
Yeah, and given the picture where they're together, I feel like he probably wouldn't have left by then.
Yeah, when they're teenagers.
When they're teenagers.
But they are wearing the Mammon shirts, which is interesting.
Well, that makes me think that maybe it was soon after that picture.
Yes.
Because one of the biggest theories we have of why Fizz left the circus with Blitz and things was because he got bought out or scouted or whatever you want to call it by Mammon.
Yeah.
And then that's why he looks so much like Mammon, and that's why he has the robotic arms and legs, but we're gonna get to that. That's later in the notes.
Yes.
But yeah, that's our big theory.
Yes. So then the first variation of the timeline after Fizz leaves, sometime after, maybe not immediately after, but Blitz and his sister have their own little The Amazing Imp Twins show.
Yes. And I think it's very important to know that they probably had to do different kinds of shows since Fizz was like the feature person of Blitz and Fizz's show. So that's why.
Yeah. The Imp Twins show could have originally been like part of the whole big circus thing, but then they left to do their own separate thing, independent of the circus. I think that's also a possibility.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, it also could be a possibility that it was just in the circus, but it can't because she had them marking out.
Right, yeah, that's, but yeah, they have their own show, and then from that, we know from one of the posters in his office, it's The Incredible Blitzo, one night only. It's his independent show.
Yes.
So in this version of the timeline, this would come after the Imp Twins show, where Blitz has his own solo show. And
if that went well.
More
Imp Twins
the Imp Twins show would continue, and then Blitz would eventually leave that for some unknown reason.
Yes.
If that went bad, Blitz is embarrassed, humiliated, and just leaves permanently.
Yeah, leaves the circus biz, just everything.
Leaves his sister.
Yes.
Which we think is definitely probably a big part of how he screwed her over.
Yeah. Our original theory was that he left her with the family.
Yeah.
So this kind of stems from that. Now that we know the markings crossed out, that isn't the case.
Yeah, probably.
They didn't. Yeah, most likely he didn't leave her to fend for herself and the family.
But it's kind of even worse if he left her to fend for herself on her own.
Arguably, because I think it could be a little worse with the family, just because we know that Blitz took a lot of the heat, at least from their dad.
Yeah.
And so, that transition of then it all probably being on Barbie.
Yeah.
I think they're both really bad.
Oh, yeah, I agree. But especially if they're show together, I'm assuming it was very much a duo act.
Yeah.
And if she's all on her own, like, there's no one else she can do that show with.
That's true. You're right.
That would also very much... Either way.
Either way, awful.
Yes. And then the other variation of the timeline, Family Circus, Fizz leaves, that's the same. But then before the Imp Twins, there's Blitz's solo show.
And since it was like that one night only thing, we think that maybe like it happened and it went really well, and so then they do the Imp Twins.
Yeah, then they do the Imp Twins, and then he ends up leaving again for an unknown reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, going back to earlier, if we said, like, his solo show goes well, and then he does more of the Imp Twins, I feel like if his show went well, he might feel like he was being held back by his sister, maybe?
Yeah, or something along the lines of, given the dynamic that we've seen so far in the circus with his family, and given that we don't know enough about that,
Yes.
I think that maybe he feels a little bit of a responsibility to take care of his sister, since he always did, growing up. And so, since his solo show went well, after Fizz left, he was like, okay, well, we can do something independently. Like, we can leave the family.
Yeah.
And he takes her, and he leaves the family.
Yeah.
And then eventually he decides that he needs to actually do something for himself for once. And he leaves.
Yeah.
And so that, if that's the dynamic with Barbie Wire, like saying you ruined my life and stuff, that would make a lot of sense for his reaction to, like, remembering her and things like that, because he knows he made the right decision for himself, but he knows that no matter what he does, she's gonna be upset.
Yeah.
Because he did put her in a bad situation, but he needed to.
Yeah. I feel like, it's not this episode, it's, episode 3, but I feel like we should mention the rehab line, which we're not sure how to interpret, whether or not it was serious or just Veronica making a dig at his sister.
Yes.
But Veronica does say, like, something like, rehab's a place for loser wash-ups, so
your sister says hi.
Your sister says hi, which could just be a dig.
Yeah, and not a more important, but an important piece of that line also is that Blitz is like, they let you out of rehab, and she's like, well, it's because I'm famous. It's for wash-ups, like people that aren't famous anymore.
Yes.
So your sister says hi. So that could be a line saying, like, implying that she's in rehab, but it could also just be a dig because they're not famous anymore.
Yeah.
And that also plays into the fact that they were once famous.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, whether it's, like, fully true or not, there's a lot there.
Yes. And then also, that kind of brought on the idea of if Blitz A has substance abuse issues or has had substance abuse issues,
which we will get into.
Yes, we will. It's not on our list for this episode, but I really want to talk about it.
Whew.
But just keep that in your mind.
In the back of your mind.
Think about the fact that, have you seen Blitzo drink before, audience?
Other than X's and O's where he takes one tiny little sip.
Which we're not even sure if it's actually a sip because the drink never goes down.
Yep. Just saying.
Think about that.
Just think about that.
And, like, he gives the vibe of a drinker, so that's, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just, like...
And, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Also, the trailer, the scene...
Yes.
Where he appears to be drunk.
Yes.
I forget I'll have to find which trailer that was, but it's, like... I think...
Was that that wasn't the trailer, that was the, clip from the second part of the finale.
Yes. So it'll be season 1... finale part 2.
Yes, that never got released
because
of legal issues.
Legal issues, apparently. Not fully sure about the story there, but will be released at some point.
Yes.
And Blitz appears very drunk in it.
Yes. Okay, I take it back. We're gonna get into it this episode.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's that. And in that scene, also, Luna... like, takes care of him. Because he goes up to this, like, bouncer, I presume, that kind of vibe. It looks similar to the bouncer we see in Aussies, but it's definitely not the same person.
Yes.
And is, like, all lovey-dovey on him, and then Luna, like, pulls him off, like, picks him up, carries him out. There's no audio, so we don't actually know what's going on in that scene, but there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, there's the fact that Blitz is drunk. We've never seen him drunk, and we've never seen him really drink. Second of all, that it's right after Aussies, which would be prime time for a relapse. Especially where he's, like, on the couch crying. He goes to, like, presumably talk to Luna about it.
He goes to knock on her door and then sees that she's not there.
Yeah, so, like, that would make a lot of sense also. And then Luna taking care of him, I take two things from that. One, taking him out of a situation where someone might take advantage of him because he's intoxicated. which is just...
We'll
get into that. I forget that all the, like, sexual trauma is not canon. We'll get into that. Just hold on to that thought. Second of all, it seems like Luna's done this before.
Yes,
with
I agree.
Blitz or with someone else in her past, we don't know.
Right.
But it seems like she knows how to take care of someone in this sense.
Yeah. I think that Blitz being really lovey-dovey when he's drunk is something that, not that he should be getting drunk if he has substance abuse issues, but I think it's something, if he is going to be getting drunk in the show, I think that's something that they have potential to do something with.
I agree. Also...
him and Stolas, but that'd be a fucked up way
for
Stolas to find out that he, like...
Yeah, that would be a really fucked up way. But I think that also really shows something about the character in general, that he is really lovey-dovey because he's the opposite in real life.
Yeah.
And when he drinks, he lets his guard down.
Yeah.
And so that just shows how, like, strong that guard is, but his actual intentions and how nice and good of a person he actually is.
Yeah.
I feel like there's still more on that, but we'll get to that eventually.
Get to that, yes.
To take a really hard pivot.
A really sharp turn. Let's go to Moxie. Who we're going to talk this happened to be a very Blitz-heavy episode, but there's going to be a lot of Moxie talk throughout this podcast.
Yeah. And also I think when we talk about Murder Family, we've got a lot.
Oh, that's true.
Of stuff. But yeah, for the pilot, there's not a lot for Moxie. One note is that he canonically cooks.
Which is so sweet.
It's so sweet.
He's so husband material.
Yeah. And, because we always have this thing that, when we talk about Millie and Moxie, just, like, not when we're actually critically analyzing the show, but just when we're, like, talking for fun, we'll be like, which one in the relationship does this? Or, like, do you think, who does this?
Yeah.
And so the fact that Moxie cooks just, I don't know, it says a lot.
They're literally girl boss for male wife.
Yeah, literally.
That's their relationship, in a nutshell. Where the fuck is my girl boss?
Real.
Anyway.
The next note that we had was that Moxie is canonically high maintenance, which I think is hilarious. Because is it in the pilot or in...
It's in the pilot,
In the pilot. The kid is like... says something about Moxie being easy to manage, and Millie shouts, "No, he's not!" Implying that he's... Yeah.
So funny. And I would love for them to dive into them more.
Yeah. We know that he canonically has anxiety issues, and given his past that we see in X's and O's, I wonder if Millie has worked a lot with him on his, like, not his trauma directly, because she doesn't know anything about that.
Yes.
But, like, his responses. Like, she probably got with him and was like, okay, this guy is fucked up.
Yeah.
And so that's the... Moxie, why have I never met your pa before? Line is probably... Her gears were probably turning.
Yeah.
But he canonically has a lot of issues, and I feel like she's probably worked through them. And I have the note of, calm down, Mox, you're gonna have another panic attack.
I am calm. But also directly following that, oh my god, there's a tiny little dog. Sorry, out the window. There's a
window right next to us.
Anyway, following that line, like, calm down, Mox, you're gonna have another panic attack. And he goes, like, I am calm, but then she, like, hugs him and, he goes, like, soothes him.
Yeah, and he, like, whimpers.
Yeah, and I know it's, like, a little funny moment, but it's also, like, they've been through this before.
This happens regularly.
Yeah.
And so I just think that whole dynamic was just really hilarious.
Another panic attack? When was the first? Was it, like, today?
Yeah, no, that's... Because you're gonna have another panic attack, one implies that they've done this before, but the soothing implies they do it a lot,
yeah,
and so...
But the use of the word another implies that it happened, like an hour ago.
Not necessarily, it could just be, like, you've had panic attack before, but given what we know about Moxie and how in Murder Family, he's on the bridge of a panic attack, like, the whole time... Yeah. I think that you might be right, that maybe, like, getting ready for work this morning was a panic attack.
Yeah, I fucking love Moxie so much.
Yeah.
We already kind of touched on the childhood trauma.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about it in X's and O's.
Yes, a lot about it.
A lot. That's like the whole episode.
But related to that, the line where he goes, I was dreaming my parents were being murdered, but now I'd like to go back to that.
And is that his mom or his dad getting murdered, or both? And these would be all very different scenarios?
Yes, but with X's and O's in mind, it makes... It hits different.
Yeah, especially with, like, but even with, like, with that in mind, it means a lot of different things, because his dad being murdered arguably would probably be a good dream.
Yeah.
His mom being murdered could A, be a bad dream, like a nightmare, or B, be his, like, he's literally having a trauma flashback.
Yeah. LOL.
LOL.
And then if it's both of them, it's a little
that's
cocktail of emotion.
Yeah.
Also,
and the fact that he just wakes up and like he's just talks about this, like he just fully
open,
possibly
on him.
had a traumatic experience, and he's just like, like makes me think it happens a lot.
Yeah. Also, the fact that this is the pilot, like, we don't know if they actually had that episode planned out yet.
Yeah.
Either way, though, it's funny.
It's something.
It's something.
And that is all we had for the pilot, right?
Yeah, I think
right.
so. Let's
into episode 1.
Family.
Yeah,
Yippee.
they heard it.
Episode 1.
The chalkboard in the classroom at the very beginning of the episode says the January 8th, no year. But it implies that it's set in January. I don't know if that's important now.
Yeah.
But it's important to note that like we have context that episode was on January 8th.
Yes.
Oh, actually, that's a lie. It has to be past January because that was a flashback.
That's true. That's true.
So actually, we're wrong.
Yeah, but we do know that it was very shortly after that. Because
yes.
I believe when she's talking to Blitz, he's like, oh, so you, like, just died and you already want revenge, huh? I can work with that. So,
yeah.
I don't remember the exact line, but he definitely says something like that.
Yeah, but it's past January 8th, and I would argue that it has been less than a month.
Yeah,
so it probably
I'd say
is still in January.
January of X year.
Yeah, and I think they make it very deliberate. She, like, slides her chalk down and doesn't write the year.
Yeah.
Which we have other theories about the year and how it's modern, but...
Yeah, I think later in, I think it's Seeing Stars, we get a lot of insight that there's a quarter that says 2021 on
yes.
it. So it's definitely present day.
Yes. But it also could be future.
That's true.
But we know it's not set in the past, which is important.
Yes. So that's just a little thing.
Yeah. Another silly little thing that's not really that important is that there's a condemned building sign under the IMP sign. And in this episode, when they go through the portal, the IMP sign's like torn down a little. So it means not only that they are probably renting out a condemned building.
Yes.
But also that Blitz's solution was just putting IMP sign over that.
Yes.
And I think that's just hilarious.
There's just so many good little details in this show where it's like, again, we've seen the show so many times now, and we'll be on our, like, 12th watch, and it's like, oh, the building's condemned.
Yeah.
Does that mean anything?
And also just, that's hilarious.
That's so funny.
That's, like, this is one of those shows that you can watch so many times.
So many.
And it's still entertaining.
Yeah, we, specifically X's and O's, we've watched an insane amount of times, and still notice something new every single time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Next we have another just Blitz section for this episode.
Yeah.
And in a subsection is just Blitz's unhinged moments. First of all, he has a therapist.
There's no way.
No, there's no fucking way that's canon. That was definitely a joke.
Our theory is that he's on BetterHelp.
Yeah. So there's two theories. One, that was a joke, and it's funny because he's far from having a therapist. And second is that he's on BetterHelp and he thinks he's getting therapy, but he's really just like probably getting verbally abused.
Yeah. Or he's on one of those, what's that other website where like teenagers can volunteer?
Fucking 7 Cups of Tea.
7 Cups. He's just like trauma dumping to some like 13-year-old.
Yeah, and they're like, that sounds hard.
Yeah, that sucks.
Do you want my Insta? Like,
yeah, so either he's totally lying or it was a joke, or he just has a really shitty therapist.
Yeah, I think if it was BetterHelp too, they do have actual not BetterHelp, 7 Cups, they do have actual therapists on 7 Cups, which I think would be even funnier.
Yes.
Because they're probably way worse than BetterHelp.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's...
Me getting my 7 Cups therapy.
Yeah, literally, like, what?
Yeah.
The next is he gets fucking shot.
He gets fully shot in this episode.
And he makes the, oh shit, a new hole joke.
Scatter!
But that's it.
Then
like, he just is running around with an open fucking bullet wound.
And then at the end of the episode, he's wearing a sling, and it's like, I don't think that's how you deal with a shot wound.
No. I mean, he probably needed to rest his arm.
Yes, but still, the hole is still there.
It
like,
is? It's not
open.
Covered?
No, it's
oh my
not
goodness.
covered.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and like, I know they're demons, but like, still, I have to think getting shot isn't ideal.
And also just the whole thing with Blitz and his, like, receiving pain thing. Not in that way. Well, yes, in that way. But I think it says a lot about his self-worth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because,
which he has none of.
Because he has none of. And, like, I don't know, he, like, when other people are hurt, he's not, like, a big, like, oh my god, fix them. But he is, like, he does want them to...
He gets very protective.
Yeah, he wants them to get help.
Yeah.
But with himself, nothing.
Yeah.
And no one is really protective of him except Moxie later on.
Yeah.
But that makes the line at the end of this, not the end, but like near the end of this episode where he's like, when like Moxie goes to Millie and what does he say?
Oh, I'm fine.
Yeah, that makes that hit a little harder.
Yeah, and that happens a lot with Moxie and Millie, where
Yeah.
they just run to each other, and then Blitz is just kind of on the side, like, oh yeah, I'm okay, guys.
Yeah.
And that compared with how he's always trying to, like, insert himself into their relationship, I think
Yeah.
it's really just him being like, I want to be close to these people, I want us to be friends. He wants them to be family.
Yes, he does. And I think that, honestly, Moxie and Blitz are, like, family.
Yeah.
And then Millie is married in.
Yeah.
But Millie also, I feel like Millie has some very strong feelings for Blitz. Like, not romantically or anything, but, like, she's, like, always checking in on him.
Yeah, and
Like,
she's very, like, down to business when it comes to her job, like,
Yeah.
doing what Blitz wants them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. You're gonna hear us do that a lot. Just the, yeah, man.
Yeah, man. So Blitz, as far as we know, every time he's wearing his coat, he has some type of silly little horse in it.
Yeah.
And we see this first in the first episode, but we
Yeah.
see it later on too in Cherub.
The marijuana, yeah.
Yeah, the marijuana horse.
Marijuana, I should say. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I did take. I'm pretty sure I took note of every single time we saw something horse related.
Yeah. That'll be
'cause-
another episode just tearing his horses.
Blitz horse tier list. Yeah. But yeah, this man there's nothing neurotypical about the way that this
No.
man likes horses.
And between him having a horse at all times, definitely being a comfort item, and like that he's always thinking about horse things, and it's been a special interest since he was a kid.
A small child, yes.
He's autistic.
He's so autistic. Therefore, the R-Slayer was fine, actually. That's
No,
a joke. That's
no.
a joke. That's a joke. We don't condone that.
Especially where he's not like outwardly canonically said autistic.
Oh, yeah.
Even though it's very canonically implied.
Yeah. Even if it was canon, having... I don't know anything about Brandon Rogers as a person, but, like,
Yeah,
assuming
that's
he's
true
not
also.
autistic, I feel like it's
I
still
didn't even
iffy.
think about that. But also, like, I wouldn't say I was condoning it even that way, but it would be
Yes.
a little better.
Yeah, it'd be a little better.
Yeah.
And if Moxie was, too.
Yes. But even at that, like, we don't know that Moxie wants to reclaim it.
Yeah.
So, that's
No,
a whole thing.
there's, like, no situation in
Yeah.
which it's okay, really.
Yeah, no, we are, let's be clear that we're not, like, analyzing it in the sense of, like, is it okay? Because it's not okay.
No, it's not.
We just analyze literally everything all the time.
Yeah, we just think it's not funny, but like
Not funny.
not
funny.
parentheses not funny.
The only people who know us in person will get that one. But,
Yeah. The point is, he's autistic.
Yeah.
That's the point. Yeah.
The next thing in the fucking unhinged moments, or the last thing, is that he has, in this episode, 4 phones. I know I wrote 3, but it's 4.
I thought it was 3.
Because he has one at the end. He smashes 3 phones.
I think between the pilot and this episode, he
Oh,
goes
okay.
through 3 phones.
Okay.
Because there's the pilot when he has the conversation with Stolas on the phone, and then he like smashes it.
Yeah,
puts it in
that's
the
what I'm
blender.
thinking of.
That's one, and then in this one,
He throws 2 of them.
yeah. Oh, he loses the one in the forest because of Stolas, and then
Yeah.
I think he also breaks one earlier on.
And he, like, throws it.
So yeah, that's 3 that he breaks, but then he has one in the future episodes.
Yeah.
So he has at least 4
He has at least 4 phones. And that's just funny because I feel like we should have kept a phone count. Like, because it's not as common. We started keeping a phone count. It's not as common going forward.
Yeah.
But it definitely still happens.
I also feel like we've seen him have, like, use phones with multiple different phone cases in future episodes,
Yeah.
which is implying that they're different phones, considering what we know about him and phones.
Yeah.
I don't know if it means anything. I think it's just supposed to be funny, but, like,
Yeah.
how the fuck?
Yeah, it's just hilarious.
And considering that we see, like, on the whiteboard in the earlier episodes that IMP is not doing well as a company.
Yeah.
Where is he getting the money
No,
for these
literally.
phones? And then in Cherubs, he spends all his money on the marijuana. Like,
Yeah.
where is the money coming from?
Exactly.
What is going on in the House of Commons?
Literally. Out of the unhinged moments and into the regular moments.
Yes.
We have that there is a Fizzarelli drawing on.
We think it's Fizz.
We think it's Fizz.
It's like a silhouette, but it looks like Fizz.
Yeah. On his wall, and saying that there's also the drawing of the 2 horses, one that very much looks like Blitz, since it's red with
That
white
one is
spots.
definitely Blitz, yeah.
And then the other one's like pink.
So,
we think it's Verosica.
we think that's Verosica.
And they're like kind of kissing, they're like nose to nose,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a heart in between them, and then there's an arrow through the heart, and
Yes.
that's what's keeping it up on the wall. assuming that they're doing the same thing that Moxie's doing with shooting and Luna holding it up, that's what happened, and that's how that's up there.
Yeah.
And so with that being one of the other pictures up there, I think one of 3, the other one being Fizz makes a lot of sense.
Yes, I agree.
And the arrow is like right through him as a person, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I think and this is assuming that him and Fizz are canon exes, which
yes.
I
believe so.
We'll get into that.
We will.
We very much think they are. We'll probably get into that in the next podcast episode, because that's Lululand.
That is Lululand, yeah.
So we'll probably at least start to get into that.
Yeah, and we're getting into it a little bit now anyway. Yeah. Because... Sorry, my brain. Because there was that.
Yes.
But yeah, we're just noting this now because it was in this episode. But yeah, that's a little sneak peek of our feral feelings about Fizz and freaking Blitz.
Yeah.
That will probably be the majority of next episode, let's be real.
Probably, yeah. We haven't compiled our notes yet, but yeah. Moving on from that, there's this little, it could be a throwaway line, but there's this line that Blitz says, who does he say that to? The latching onto your mother's tit like a parasite?
He said that to Moxie, after Moxie messes up the shot.
Yes. Yeah. It could be like a funny throwaway line, but considering we haven't really seen Blitz's relationship with his mom, and also what we know about his relationship with his dad, and probably how his dad made him feel, it could very much be like how Blitz feels he was to his mother.
Yeah, and that's how he feels of his self-worth, coming back to that.
Yes. And the hashtag daddy issues. Was he told this growing up? Did his dad make him feel that way?
Yeah.
Especially considering, in the circus, and when he's a kid, and his dad's like, don't you want to help me and your mama? He's like, of course I want to help mama, implying that his mom, like, is maybe in a situation where she needs more help?
Yes, or implying that the mother also gets abused by this dad.
Yes.
And that he is taking on that caring role. He's taking on what's that called? It's a role in toxic families.
I don't know the name for it, but I get what you're trying to say. Yeah, I feel like either way, I feel like Blitz wanting anything from his mom would make him feel guilty.
Yes.
Because she also needs help, and it shouldn't be his job to help her.
Yeah, but I feel like it's definitely a little bit of parentification, but I don't think from his mom. I think it's just an inherent feeling of, like, he needs to take care of her. Especially because in situations like this, a lot of time the spouse gets more abused than the kids. And so I feel like maybe he's trying to protect her. Yeah. And that morphs into him needing to take care of her. And so anytime that he's been taken care of, he feels like... Yeah. Like, when he was young and he didn't realize that yet, he was like, oh my god, I was an awful person, and, like, I made my mom be in this situation, and, like, all of this stuff. Yep.
I need Moxie and Blitz to have a conversation.
Yes, literally just one conversation about anything in their past.
Yeah, they'd understand each other so much better. They'd come to realizations about themselves.
Yeah.
Blitz could be open with Stolas and be like, hey, I love you. It would all work out.
Which I feel like the only person that we could get on Blitz's side, like, level, and get him to, like, fucking figure his shit out is Moxie. Yeah. Because they have such an interesting dynamic. Like, Moxie is the only person that Blitz listens to. Stolas occasionally, but, like, full-heartedly listens to is Moxie, but Moxie, like, never says anything to him. Because he's scared because of his issues.
Oh shit, what was I gonna say? Moxie and Millie both, like, have already encouraged Blitz and Stolas as a relationship a lot. Like, in Harvest Moon Festival, Millie's line, like, his boyfriend. Yeah. And then, in Seeing Stars, when Moxie is like, well, he seems to like you, sir. Yeah, like, it seems like they're like, you guys have something.
There is that one part in Truth Seekers, though, with Moxie, where he, like, pushes him off of him, which we'll get to. It's such a subtle thing, and we'll get to it in Truth Seekers.
We'll get to that. That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing.
Whole other can of worms.
But I think that also maybe Moxie does not know Stolas well enough that he feels the need to... Yeah. Or feels comfortable to promote the relationship. Like, he likes you, isn't necessarily saying, like, I think that you guys should date. Because maybe Moxie isn't sure, and he doesn't want Blitz to get hurt. Yeah. 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 Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Alright, moving on. Oh, the portal thing.
Yeah, so when at the end of near the end of the episode, Moxie hangs back, and Millie and Blitz go through the portal, and Moxie's like waiting to see the people get justice or whatever. And Blitz and Millie are both standing at like the chalkboard, and Blitz is so sad.
Like, I wish that this is an audio podcast, so we can't like put a picture up.
Yeah.
But if you go to that scene of the episode, maybe I can try and find the timestamp of it.
Yeah,
Actually,
and also
you vamp. I'll look for it.
Yeah. Also, maybe we could put. I know we always say on our other podcasts we're gonna put things on the Instagram. But maybe we could actually put a picture of it on the Instagram.
Yes.
But he looks so sad, like animated sad eyes, like slunched, like whole thing.
And it's like a very like distinct expression that is so. Like,
it was very intentionally animated.
Yeah. I'm trying to find it. I'm almost there. Hang on.
Yeah, no worries. And there are some small things that it could be. Like, maybe they were looking at the stats, and they see that they went down.
Yeah, we do see, like, on the whiteboard behind them, it's, like, the, like, IMP's, like, money going down.
Yeah, so he could have looked at that, and he could be just sad, like, because Millie's, like, got her arm, like, on him. So it could be that he's just sad that the mission didn't go well. But I don't know. It's so much more intense than that, I feel.
Yeah, it's such a specific face. Hang on,
Did you find it?
I'm trying. I thought I was in the right spot, but I'm not. Hang on.
No worries.
Oh, my sound is up.
Get a little.
You have a good heart, honey.
Just a fuzzy head. Why would you say that?
Okay, there it is. Okay, at 12 minutes and 39 seconds. If you in season 1, episode 1, Murder Family, 12 minutes 39 seconds. Pause it. Blitz has the saddest face I've ever seen in my fucking life.
And he's like looking down, like whole thing.
Yeah, his like mouth is in like a little curvy line. It's such a quick little frame.
Yeah.
And it's something I feel like it's important to note for this podcast. We have done so much frame by frame analysis.
Yes. Like, so we've slowed it down.
Slowed it down, paused every second. Like, there will be a lot of little things like this where you're going to be like, I've never noticed that before. You're sure? We're sure.
We're sure.
Trust me.
We're crazy.
We're crazy.
We do this so you don't have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's that, and usually we have like pretty good like theories for things, but that one I just don't know.
I just don't know.
Like, what is going on there?
Yeah, it's such a small little moment, but it's so deliberate.
Yeah.
Especially, I feel like with animation, like you don't see this so much in live action things because, like, oh, an actor could have just made a face. But with animation, these things are so deliberately done.
Yes.
Very deliberately. It has to mean something. And
also, this is right after he's like, did you have a good wank-off session, Moxie, or whatever? Mm-hmm. And he's being, like, super playful. So that's off-putting, too.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of is that it's also sort of shortly following after the whole, like, oh, I'm fine thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, those scenes weren't close enough together. I think.
They weren't. And the fact that he had that, and I know that he has that front up, and he can act however the fuck he wants.
Yeah. I just thought of a really funny interpretation is that he dropped his toy horse on the ground and it shattered.
That's canon.
That's canon. That's canon until proven otherwise.
Yeah. Or that he felt bad about, like, partially yelling at Moxie, but I don't think he would be talking to Millie about that, so.
No.
And
well, Millie's not really looking at him. She's, like, looks like she's somewhat in front of him, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't think she sees his face. I don't know. You go to that moment and tell us what you think.
Yeah. Maybe that will be the question of the week.
Yeah.
I know we have a different question of the week.
Yes. Question of the 2 weeks.
Question of Q&A.
Helluva
Q&A. That's what we're calling
it.
For reference, we did another podcast, or we do another podcast called Double A Discussions, and we have a question of the week there, which will now not be a question of the week either.
Because we're doing both of these podcasts bi-weekly now, alternating, but that's not relevant.
Anyway,
moving on to Moxie.
Moxie with a little heart.
So going back in the episode quite a bit, there's a line that upon first watch means nothing.
Yeah.
But upon X's and O's being released a little over a month ago, means a lot.
Yeah, the line is when Moxie is trying to shoot the targets in the office, and Millie's like, just take a deep breath and let it out and, like, be calm. And he says, I just don't understand any reason why we'd need to kill a human family. Maybe a shitty dad or a mob family. That's understandable.
Which, I mean, I don't think we really need to explain it if you've seen X's and O's. It's just, that is an insane fucking foreshadowing line to throw in there. Holy shit.
Yeah, I don't think we need to say anything about that.
I don't think so either.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And the way he says it, too, he's like, maybe a shitty dad. Like, he's thinking about it.
Yeah, it's like, when do we need to kill a family? Maybe a shitty dad.
Like, I could see that.
No, that'd be cool.
Yeah, like, that'd be fine. I'm fine with that. Like, let's kill my dad. Like,
I cannot wait for Moxie to kill his fucking dad.
No, me too. If, Vivsy Pop?
Vivsy?
If you're listening to this, if you do not have Moxie kill his dad, I will be so upset.
I need every abuse victim in this show to kill their abusers.
Not necessarily even kill, but, like, Stolas stood up to Stella.
Yes.
That's fine, too. And we saw Moxie stand up to his dad, but ending that with... You'll see just how good I've gotten at my job.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have him kill him off,
if you don't have him follow up on that, and also in that sense, he was standing up to his dad because of his love for Millie.
Yes.
I need him to do it for himself.
Yes.
And then kill his dad. Pew! But anyway, that's so long from now that we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. Another thing in this episode with Moxie is when Moxie and Blitz are, like, getting ready to shoot the family, and Blitz is like, this is easy enough, you can do this. Mm-hmm. Moxie is so happy, excited, proud. He's like, me? He's so, and that's just so sweet.
He's so happy, and then he looks through the window at who Blitz wants him to kill, and not only is it's the innocent family, but it's the mother of the innocent family.
Just the mom.
Just the mom.
And he says, do I have to kill a family or something like that? Mm-hmm. And Blitz is like, no, not a family, just the mom. We're ruining a family.
Yeah, we're killing a mother. We're
ruining a family. Like really,
like
really.
This episode, yeah.
Like, in my opinion, there's absolutely zero way they couldn't have had Moxie's trauma planned out way in advance because of all
Definitely
of this.
in this episode.
Yeah.
I'm not sure in the pilot if they knew yet, but for this episode, without a doubt.
Yes. And then the fact that in the end, Moxie does kill the mom.
He does kill the mom. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just sit with that.
Just sit with that.
Knowing what we know in X's and O's, just sit with that.
Yeah. And then, are we sitting with it?
Okay, we sat with it.
Okay, we sat with it.
Sorry.
Yeah, and then there's, this is like the third time we're referencing this, but when Blitz is like, oh, I'm fine, because Moxie and Millie are being all cute and pushes your little faces together, and they're like, la la la, and then Blitz is like, I'm fine. Moxie goes, sorry, sir. Which he says sir throughout the entire show, to be clear.
But there is a lot of different tones of the way he says sir.
Yes.
He says it sarcastically to Blitz usually.
Yeah. Yes.
Or just, like, casually.
Yeah.
But in this instance, and I think all the instances in the first episode, except for when he's yelling at him, or that's even the pilot. Mm-hmm. And, like, when Millie knocks something over, and then when they're in X's and O's.
Yeah.
He says sir, like, in a casual way, except for those times he says it in a very, like, sir.
Like an apologetic.
Sir, and, like, a very, like, very serious, like, the best way I can describe it is the way he says it to his dad.
Yes.
It's very, like, serious and very, like I'm...
Like, yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, like, not commanding, but being commanded.
Yes.
Like army style kind of thing.
He says it a lot in the show, but there's definitely a difference. There's, like, the sir, and then there's the sir.
Yeah, like, sir.
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 Yes, sir. Yeah. And this one felt like one of those. Like, sorry, sir. Man. Sorry, sir.
Like, really trying not to make him upset.
Yeah, and that compared with all of the other parallels between this episode and X's and O's, I feel like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I know we just said this line, but just, you have a good heart, Henny, just a fuzzy head.
We just like that line.
Yeah,
it just
it's
makes
so
us happy.
cute, and it's also just, yeah, me too, man.
Yeah, me too,
yeah.
Man. The Moxie Kin is gonna jump out
in
this podcast.
Okay. So, ending.
Yeah, we have a few general notes now.
Yes.
I believe.
So, the biggest general note is, how long has IMP existed?
Yeah.
AKA IMP.
Yeah.
There is an IMP ad in the newspaper of the 2022 trailer, and it's next to an article about Fizz and Ozzy.
Yes.
So, I think that IMP probably, because I don't think that Fizz and Ozzy just got together. It seems like they're a united front.
Yeah.
So I feel like that implies that Imp has been around for at least a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't killing people on Earth.
Yeah, which we know they used to just kill people in hell because
they make a lot of comments about like we don't do that anymore.
I believe in Murder Family they say that because he's like, so you want us to kill someone here because we don't do that anymore.
Yeah. You know what other episode they say that in?
Which one?
X's and O's.
Oh yeah, yep. They sure do.
Yep.
They sure do say that. Yep. Anyway. Yeah.
And then Blitz says that he kills people now when he's with Stolas. Before he when he's with Stolas to get the book before he gets the book.
Yeah.
So I think that implies that Imp was already a thing before that.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
So we have a lot of backing for that. Is essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah. We know that IMP existed for at least some time.
Mm-hmm.
Probably I forget our rationale for this, but probably when he met Moxie in jail? Or no?
We believe it existed before that.
Before that.
But I think it was only a little bit before that.
Yeah.
But in this we had reasoning for this.
And we can get to that more when we get to that episode also.
Yes. But there is a note in here that says Blitz owned IMP before meeting Moxie.
Or at least was trying to start IMP,
yes,
I'd say. I remember our reasoning for that, because the picture of Moxie on his first day of the job, wait, no. That was for something else.
Yeah. We'll figure this out, but that is a note we had. Sorry about that. We're so good at podcasting.
Yeah, we have a lot of just, like, scattered notes about timelines and when things happened, and they're getting a little jumbled up at the moment, but...
Yeah, that's what happens when you have 30 pages of notes for 3.5 hours of content.
Yeah, crazy how that happens.
This is probably pretty assumed in general, but Blitz started Imp after he left the circus.
Yes.
And then in the 2022 trailer, there's a scene with Fitz. I keep saying Fitz because Fitz and Blitz. Fizz and Blitz are being romantic with each other.
Yes.
Like, he dips him down.
Dips him. Blitz is making a little flirty face.
Yeah. Which he doesn't have his marking in.
Yes.
But it's also not fully animated yet.
Yes. So it could be.
It could be later on, but we assume it's earlier, and that's a really big... That and a lot of other stuff that we're going to talk about in the next episode makes us think that they had a romantic relationship.
Yes.
Fizz and Blitz.
Yeah. Blitz basically canonically says, "What that mouth do?"
Yeah.
in the Lululand episode.
No, I don't think he says fucking good mouth.
He goes like, "Oh, that mouth."
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Like something about his mouth being good.
Yeah.
Is it Helluva mouth or something like that?
Hell of a mouth?
Hell of a mouth? That's the name of this episode.
Oh, for the episode.
No, I'm saying, but it's something like one hell of a, like, we'll talk about that next episode. But yeah, the next note we have is Fizz and the robot arms, which we already talked about.
Yeah,
the whole Mammon thing.
Yeah.
But
there's also we'll get into that in the circus episode, but I was gonna mention I'll just say it, the balloon animals. How Blitz has the little balloon horse with no limbs.
Yeah.
And how that's potentially foreshadowing.
Yes.
Or a parallel, at least.
Yeah, I don't know why we're talking about all of this in this episode, but...
No, we've said so many things that are not relevant, but they are.
They are.
We're just gonna have a lot of overlap.
Alright, do we want the Q&A question to be about the Blitz thing, or about what we actually wrote?
I think the Blitz thing.
Okay, so, hell of a Q&A question for this episode. How do we want to word this?
I already forget what the question was, I'm not gonna lie.
Why do you think Blitz is so sad?
Oh, yeah, so
I think if you listen this far, you know the context.
Yes. At the 12-minute, 39-second mark of Season 1, Episode 1, Murder Family.
That frame, when Blitz is very sad, why do you think he's so sad?
Do you think it's just, like, a little funny thing based on, like, the chart in the background, or do you think he dropped his horse and broke it? What do you think
Or do you think it's got a way deeper meaning?
Yeah.
So, yeah, why do you think that he's so sad? That's going to be the question. On Spotify, you'll be able to see the question and answer it. If it, for some reason, doesn't work, you're welcome to message us on Instagram.
Yes, our Instagram is at AA Discussions, because that's our brand. It's also the name of our other podcast.
Yeah.
which is much more casual. It's just us chatting, pretty much. But
Yeah.
you're welcome to give that a listen also.
That will be uploaded next Sunday.
Yes. And this podcast will be uploaded every other Sunday as
So-
well, so they alternate.
Yes, so the next episode that is going to be Lululand, and like you said, 2 Sundays, which is the 30th
Yes.
of, what month is it?
April 30th, 2023.
Yep.
We'll be talking about Lululand.
Yeah, so we hope to see you there.
Yeah, so check us out on Instagram at AA Discussions. We'll also post updates about the podcast, both podcasts.
Yeah.
And
Also,
some other silly little posts from time to time.
yeah, sorry for cutting you off.
Yeah, you're good.
Also, let us know in messages what you liked and you didn't like, because we're always want to improve our work.
Yeah.
So.
And this is a very new podcast format for us. 'Cause
Yes.
as we said, AA Discussions, we literally just chat.
We literally just chat.
But now we have, like, notes, and we have a lot to say
Uh-huh.
about a lot of different things. So let us know if you think we could be doing it better, what you liked, what you didn't like.
Yeah, we'd
Yeah.
love your feedback.
Yeah.
All right, thanks
Cool.
for listening, and
Thanks
we'll see
for
you
listening.
in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Lululand, Lululand.
Lululand.